If you have an eighth or ninth grader, college bound, I know that oftentimes you're wondering just what to expect over these upcoming years and what things to really think about as you start to walk through the whole process, getting them ready for college. And so I want to share with you three key things to keep in mind as you're supporting your teen with navigating through high school. One of them is going to be their math placement in eighth grade. Secondly, using the summers intentionally. And third, a communication plan in your home. So for the first one, the eighth grade math placement, there's actually some research that's been done that's looked at, where students are placed in eighth grade with their math and how that actually predicts their college readiness and even achievement later after college. And so one of the things that we know for sure is that the class that you want them to be in math-wise in eighth grade will be algebra. And algebra is one of those courses that's so foundational for the projection of math courses that they will take during high school. And where they're going to be going in terms of those math classes will be leading them to calculus in senior year. And I know you might be thinking, well, I don't think they need calculus at all. And that may be the case. But when you look at just some of the different majors that they may be later considering, oftentimes, many majors, especially if they're in the STEM field at all, will require calculus in senior year. The same way for some business majors as well, as we've seen over the years. So really think about that and make sure that their placement earlier on in the math courses will really position them to navigate through their coursework in a very solid way, and that they'll have the courses that they need when it comes time to applying for colleges. Now, the second one that I mentioned in terms of what to think about overall for the high school journey is intentional summers. And I use that word very intentionally, intentional summers. So sometimes, kids are just hanging out. And that's all well and good, but that's a long time to just hang out. And I know if you're a working parent, you may be wondering too, like, what are they doing at home all day? And we know that kids can get into a little bit more trouble as teenagers when they're just home all day during the summer, doing nothing, just hanging out. So I really do encourage, thinking about some type of summer program experience that they can do. It doesn't have to be, 10 weeks of the summer that they're gone. It could be 1 week. Maybe it's 1 week here and then another week, few weeks out. And that gives them that structure, if you will, around planning their summer. And it also helps them with, being intentional with their summer. And so it's not just hanging out. And certainly reading as part of the summer. And students can have a goal of reading 1 book or maybe 2 books for pleasure. I had a student who said that he quote unquote hated reading. And I just cringed when he said it. But I just, encouraged him to, find something, whether it was even a magazine that he could read over the summer. And it turned out that he ended up finding a biography through the library and read that. And this was a really thick biography, but he was just so captivated by, the story that it held his attention and he finished reading that book. And when I tell you, he was just so proud of himself, and I was proud of him too when he was telling me about the big book that he read over the summer. And it's like, that's great. Just find anything that you enjoy learning about and read it. So reading and some type of program that gives your teen that structure during the summer can really make a difference in it being an intentional summer of learning. The third one is communication. Now, this one is a big one, and it's also one that we as parents, I feel, may struggle with the most. I had this dad who reached out to me a few years ago, and he said that he was pretty much at his wit's end because he was trying to talk to his daughter about college while they were at dinner that evening, and she gave him the hand. And I don't know what I would have done if my kid gave me the hand, but we won't go there. So anyway, it's just an area of struggle sometimes when it comes to talking with our teens, because we know that, from when our time as a teen, we can tune parents out. And so we may have been doing that with our own parents. And so teens may sometimes do that. And so I encourage you, though, to really have some time where you're actually, talking about finances, or talking about some of those sensitive topics that you may not necessarily feel comfortable with, but still having the conversation anyway. And part of it, in terms of having the conversation, is about you doing more listening than talking, and giving your teen an opportunity to feel like they're being heard. And so with that kind of communication throughout high school, it really positions you well for some conversations that may be even more challenging in senior year. And so I encourage you to start having those conversations, start having them now, and getting more comfortable with it. And so as you get more comfortable with it, so will your teen. And that just makes for really continuing to keep that strong relationship that you already have throughout the high school years.